Hello, in today's video, we're going to be talking about emotional labor. I'm going to be giving 3 different examples that I'm talking through it, as well as a various set of different ways that we can be regulating, co-regulating, and what the different sort of flavors of emotional labor look like in those. Hi, my name is Zach. I am your mental load coach. I teach specifically men to better understand the invisible labor. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit more about emotions and or the invisible labor of emotional labor. So, the 3 examples that I'm going to thread throughout the sort of types of emotional labor. 1 is calming down an upset child. 2 is talking with your partner about something that you said. 3 is talking with a work colleague about them having like a bad month work-wise. So I would say that I did a brainstorm session this morning, and I was thinking about what are the different flavors and challenges and heavinesses of emotional labor. So I'm going to start from the probably lowest level lift of emotional labor down to, I would argue, the heaviest of lifting for emotional labor. So I would probably start with I created a Venn diagram that's not perfect, so I'm not going to show it to you, but the main 2 pieces of the Venn diagram are this other person that you're talking with is dysregulated, and on the other side, you're dysregulated. So I would say the first place, which I think most people do, they don't do the emotional labor of, is if they're feeling dysregulated. And for those that don't know what that means, it's sort of like when your emotions are taking over, you're feeling a lot of things. Not doing the emotional labor would be pushing it down, saying, nope, hold it in, stay positive. You could argue that that is some level of emotional labor in itself, is acknowledging emotions enough to know that that you're going to be actively pushing them down. I would say that's probably the lowest, the least heavy of the emotional labors that exist. Number 2, I would say, is you are seeing someone else that is dysregulated. You yourself are not necessarily dysregulated. And rather than choosing to deal with and be empathetic or sympathetic or talk to them about it and not gloss over it, is you ignore it. So I could see in this example, this level of it might be you see your child's upset, you are choosing to try to be on time to the thing and not be late, rather than taking the time to do emotional labor and work with them and co-regulate. The next one I would call it sympathy. So Brene Brown talks about the difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy is where we say, oh, wow, you're really dealing with something there. Cool. On to the next. So sympathy is not stepping over that something's happening there, but it's not really doing anything about it. Versus the previous one was knowing something's there, but not even acknowledging it. So the next one would be acknowledging it. This would be giving some sympathy. Hey, I see you're dealing with something there, but hey, we got to move forward. Hey, give a silver lining, something like that. As she talks about, it breeds a lot of disconnection because it is both acknowledged. I think sometimes almost moving past it could be a better experience for some people. They would almost rather not have it be acknowledged rather than be acknowledged and pushed aside. And I would say that the sympathy could be a little bit more, in my opinion, I think it requires a little bit more emotional labor, a little bit more challenge. And I'm going to pause for a second and describe maybe the definition of emotional labor around Rose Hackman wrote the book Emotional Labor. You can see right here. She would describe it as the manipulation of your own emotions or your own affect being the way that you're presenting yourself to the people in your space, in your community. So when you are manipulating how you are showing up and or how they're showing up, I would call any and all of that is emotional labor. So from there, I would say this is now including when you're feeling dysregulated, you're feeling some emotions, they're feeling some emotions. The next level of lift would be acknowledging that they are feeling something, sympathy, but you're not getting in there to do empathetic work with them. You're not holding a safe space for them. But because you're also dysregulated, you are saying, I get that you're dealing with something. I'm also dealing with something and I need help. So it's sort of asking for a little bit of co-regulation and them helping you despite them dealing with something. I might argue that is the next level heaviness because you are also dealing with something in that moment. And remember, emotions are things that happen to us. Our brains do them by accident. We don't necessarily choose to feel angry about things. We don't choose to feel sad or hurt about things. They just happen. And for those that are not familiar, I think the core emotions, I think, are a great place to start. And I've talked about this in other videos. I know at this moment, I know Connection Codes is working on a website migration, so the link might not work, but this is what it looks like. So of the core emotions that we experience in our brain that we're able to identify with others: anger, shame, guilt, fear, loneliness, sadness, hurt, and joy. So when I'm talking about that we're dysregulated, it's usually that we're feeling one of those things, such that especially when we're having a hard time being productive or having clear thoughts. The next level, I would say, of hardness would be co-regulation. I would say when the other person isn't necessarily dysregulated, but you are clearly dysregulated, and asking or starting up a conversation where, I know for me, this would be the next level of hardness, is sort of asking, hey, can you co-regulate this with me? Can you talk me through this and be here for me? I know for a lot of people that maybe struggle with trust or struggling to feel heard, or feeling like the environment that they are going to share in is not necessarily safe. I think this acknowledging that you are struggling yourself, I think might be the next level of emotional labor, is acknowledging you need help, acknowledging you are feeling emotions, and asking for someone to be a safe space to work with you. Because I know there's a lot of people that are not capable of doing and or refuse to do that kind of labor with us. The next level, and these are starting to get fairly heavy, is self-regulation. I think self-regulation, for a lot of people, is, I showed you that wheel, would be identifying what are those emotions that I am going through in this moment. Sometimes they might not be super heavy emotions. They might be like, ooh, felt a little bit of loneliness there, felt a little bit of hurt there, but then we're able to move on. I would call that self-regulation. I would also say that when we are feeling some really heavy emotions, self-regulating in those moments are also extremely hard, and often it's much easier to do co-regulation. That's why I had said that self-regulation, I think, is harder than co-regulation. I would argue that it's similar to moving a couch. I think moving a couch with two people, much easier. Moving a couch by yourself, not nearly as easy, especially if it's an awkward one that doesn't fit through the doorways. So I think those are the difference between those big emotions versus the ones that are definitely not feeling nearly as heavy, nearly as painful. The next level, I would say, is when you're not necessarily dysregulated, but the other person is dysregulated, in choosing to be with them and holding safe space for them and being empathetic. And Brene talks about this idea of, if there are two people, if there's one person in a hole that's dysregulated, right? They're in a hole, they're feeling sad, they're feeling their feelings. The person climbing down the hole and saying, oh, yeah, I see you. I can appreciate that sadness that you hear, that you feel. I've felt that too. Sometimes it's, she references in that video, which I can reference in the notes here, is sometimes even just saying, oh, I'm really glad that you shared that with me. I'm sorry I don't have necessarily a solution for you, but thank you for sharing that and letting me be a part of that. And that kind of comes to one of those other ones of just co-regulating, and asking someone to do that with you can be really hard in itself. So I think having empathy for someone else and sitting in that hole with them and hearing it out and not trying to sugarcoat it, not trying to silver line it, I would say that's the next level. And here's the last one, and I think this is where we all struggle in our relationships, especially romantic relationships, is when we have to pause our own dysregulation to empathize with somebody else. I know that Alyssa and I consistently struggle with this. I would say any and all of my clients struggle with this. There are few people in the world that I think are actually so successfully navigating this that they don't need any help outside of them. So that's, again, when both of you are feeling dysregulated, especially in a case where your partner is saying, hey, you said a thing, I'm feeling angry about that. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling hurt, lonely about that. I'm feeling shame about the thing you said. and then being able to sit with them in that. Meanwhile, you are feeling attacked. You are feeling a bunch of dysregulated as well. And maybe you haven't identified what those emotions specifically are or to the core of it. I would say that is the hardest level of emotional labor that I'm discovering, especially with my clients and with Alyssa and I as we're improving our abilities, is being with that other person and in trying to be a safe space for them while we're feeling defensive in the moment and being able to put that aside. Hey there, quick commercial pause. If you didn't already know about the school communities that I offer, I want to share with you really quick, about 30 seconds. The School Basics community is for anyone that is working on learning these skills, having other people to interact with, not just the comment section. You can go in the link below. If you look at the School Basics, it is a free platform for you to jump in the community. All you'll have to put in is your email. And there's the first 20% of the mental load mastery curriculum I put in there in video modules. If you're looking for a little bit more support, if you're looking for a one-on-one call 3 times over 3 months, if you are looking for live programming, if you are looking for live support with me where you can show up to and get my feedback on things, and you're looking for help with implementing a bunch of things you heard and had me and I've been talking about on here, join the Mental Load Mastery Program. There's a 7-day free trial. If you join the 7-day free trial, you can grab an onboarding call where I can answer any and all of your questions about the community. If you jump onto that call, I will make you a one-time offer that you can take advantage of once your free trial starts. So if that is something you're looking for more support, mental mastery, if you're just looking for a community of people that are also working on these similar things, jump into the basics. So those are sort of the levels of heaviness that I think sort of exist for doing emotional labor. I would say that the probably most common one is to acknowledge you're feeling something and just shoving it down. I think that is the majority, I think, of what our culture has taught us, is that profits come first, money comes first, work comes first, being on time and looking good for other people comes first. And so we're not going to pause to regulate anything. We're just going to shove it down, pretend it doesn't exist, and move on to the next thing. And so I want to go a little bit into the examples, and what I want to offer here is, within these examples, I'm going to give you a couple different iterations of how it could go and give you some language for the way that kind of shows up. So I think the value of having some vocabulary here is that when you're seeing something and you can identify, one, the level of heaviness. And so I just went through 7 different levels of heavy. 7 is the heaviest, 0 is the least heavy. I'm going to sort of label what the different levels of heavy are along with that. So we'll start first with calming down an upset child. So I would say the shoving it down and pretending nothing happened, that I know there are plenty of parents that just say, nope, we got to get going. I'm going to buckle you into your seatbelt and we got to get in the car and I'm just going to carry you. And I would say they might be feeling some things about that, and just shoving those aside, that's your level 0. Or I guess there's 8. But that's your lowest level. The second level would be acknowledging that they're dysregulated and just moving past it and just saying, hey, we're going to go in the car seat. We're going to go. Let's go. That would be that next level. Not doing much emotional labor at all. Next one might be, sorry, honey, I'm sorry you're feeling that way, but we really got to go, right? That's having a little bit of sympathy, and it's moving past it. The next level of heavy might be if you're also feeling things and giving them that kind of response, being I'm feeling things for myself. Sorry, honey, we got to go. But you know what? That thing that you did back there made daddy upset. So you know what? We just got to go. Next one would be co-regulation. That one seems really tough because it's sort of asking a child that has less emotional development than an adult. But I think this is probably not something you would do but this is within the scenario, your child is dysregulated. So there are moments with the child to parent relationship, there are moments where I'm feeling a little dysregulated and my toddler is not. I'll say, ooh, I felt like, you might say, no, mama's sitting there, not dada. I'd say, ooh, feeling a little hurt there. And so I'd say by me sharing that with them, that is co-regulation. Next level would be self-regulation, is not necessarily sharing with them, although it is an opportunity to connect with them and being able to regulate and acknowledge and do that yourself. I think sometimes it can be, I think it's usually easier to do it with a person when you know that they can be a safe space. I know I'm realizing there might even be another level in here, which is co-regulating when you think that they might also be dysregulated, and then going for self-regulation instead. The next one would be, again, say they're getting in the car seats. Hey, how are you feeling? Oh, wow, I get it. You felt really hurt when, Dada took your stuffed animal away from you, or said that you couldn't bring it with you. That makes sense. I hear that. It's like being in there with them, hearing out their feelings, assuming that they can speak them and share them, and just hearing out that experience and being able to hear it. And that's assuming that you're not dysregulated too. And then the last one would be, if you're dysregulated, you set a boundary that you've been sticking to, and then still empathizing with them and hearing them out and validating their experience, and not getting defensive. I think this is also a challenge for me too, is sometimes I'm not sure where the empathy ends and the boundary keeping begins. I know that's a challenge for myself that I still don't know everything about. But again, my goal here is to educate with using some language to describe what's going on, so that we can have some better language to talk about these scenarios. All right. Our second one, so talking with a partner about something that you did. So I would say there are going to be moments where this is dysregulating for let's say me, and then sometimes in this scenario, right, I would say Alyssa's feeling dysregulated about it very often, although sometimes I'm able to hang in there, hear her out, and then she'll co-regulate with me and help me figure that out after. So I'm going to use an example that's come up before where I know that she's felt dysregulated. Very often I've delivered coffee in the morning, in a morning where I didn't deliver coffee. So we'll say the first level, the I'm dysregulated is maybe I'm mad at her, and maybe that was why I didn't bring it to her, and just shoving that down, not talking about it, not trying to feel it, but just pretending it's not there. Next level is they're dysregulated, is not acknowledging verbally that she's dysregulated, but knowing she's probably dysregulated and just moving right past it and not saying anything about it. The next one might be sympathy, would be acknowledging that maybe she's just, oh, I'm sorry, honey, you probably, are you feeling a certain way, but not really, very surface level, but hey, we got to keep moving. Hey, we got to get our kid ready to go for school. Time to wake up. Third would be, again, acknowledging what she's experiencing, but moving past, hey, I was still feeling mad from this other thing that was happening. So it's acknowledging their experience on a very surface level, but then asking really to co-regulate, asking for help ourselves. The next one would be co-regulation, and maybe they're not dysregulated, but coming and saying, hey, I'm feeling X, Y, and Z about what happened the other day. Number 5 would be self-regulation. This might flip-flop sometimes. I would say sometimes for me, self-regulation might actually be a little bit easier, especially as what I do is I use the Mental Mastery Community, which many of you know that is the main program that I have folks working in, video modules, but I am working on emotional literacy with the guys in there. So what I will often do, or what I have done historically, which we're trying to move away from, is me self-regulating, and in the moving of the couch example, it's almost like using that as a hand truck to help me out. So doing a core motion wheel into the void of that community. There's about 70 guys in there, and speaking it into there to give me some space to do it. So I'd say that right there would be some self-regulation. I would say those two could switch off, and which one's heavier, maybe depending how much safety we feel like we have with the other person. The next one, 6, would be just empathizing. So she's feeling dysregulated, I'm acknowledging it, being with her, and let's assume that I'm not feeling anything, but I'm just like hearing her out. Got it. Ooh, I hear how that could feel lonely when I didn't do that, and I've built you up to expect it. And then the last one is, if I'm dysregulated and she's dysregulated, and I'm putting myself aside and pausing, and I'm aiming to be there with her, and I'm putting aside my defensiveness. I'm putting aside my own hurt so I can hear her out and be empathetic to her experience and her situation. So that is the level of heaviness that we can go about dealing with those two. And I'll go with our third example here of a work colleague sharing a bad month. So I was in sales. When I was in sales, you would constantly hear people complaining, no one's picking up their phones. I used to make a lot of cold calls. Sometimes you also have a bad month and you kind of don't want to hear it. Sometimes you want to commiserate. Sometimes you're like, that's on you, man, woman. So again, the levels of heaviness of emotional labor for someone that is a work colleague that is sharing that they've had a bad month. So first is if you were dysregulated about it, maybe seeing that they had a bad month, shoving it down, just not saying anything about it, not doing anything about it. In this case, I guess all of them are with them being dysregulated. So if they're feeling dysregulated, oh, I am feeling terrible about having a bad month. You just move on. You don't even acknowledge it. That would be the next level of emotional labor. Sometimes I might not even call that emotional labor, but I think a lot of times we have some kind of feeling about it and we're moving past it. The next one would be sympathy. Oh, it was a tough month, but hey, if you just keep down, good things will happen. That would be sympathy. It's acknowledging their experience on a very surface level and moving past it. 3, moving on to ourselves. So acknowledging, hey, I get that you've had a crappy month, but man, look at my month. Mine's been terrible and I've been doing all these things, and asking them to co-regulate along with you. The next one could be if we're feeling dysregulated, and going back and trying to co-regulate with them. Now, again, this doesn't quite fit because we're talking about them being dysregulated, but it also might be going to regulate yourself. Wow, I am feeling so annoyed when they do that. It's that I feel angry that they're even mad, or that they complain despite having an easier territory. And I'm feeling hurt that they're not even acknowledging that I had my best quarter yet. And that might be off to the side. Next one, be empathizing and being in that hole with them, saying, wow, that sounds like a tough month. Tell me more about that. Wow, it sounds like you feel sad that deal fell through. Maybe you feel, I can see where you feel shame about the fact that you'd said you were going to do this and you feel like you didn't follow through, and this has happened before. That would be the second hardest. And the last one would be if you're still doing that, but you're also dysregulated and you're putting yourself aside to be able to be with them while you're still dealing with your own dysregulation. So again, these are varying levels of heaviness of emotional labor. I think when we're doing emotional labor, it is important that I think it's best when we can identify what level am I trying to do right now or trying to accomplish. I would say I'm consistently trying to do those last two, be empathetic with people, make time for that, especially because I know the more that I do it, the better I'm going to get, and the less total time it's going to take, and just the more skillful I can be with helping people co-regulate and or helping me co-regulate myself and identify my own emotions quicker. Because I think that's half of what regulation is. Identifying the core emotions that are getting us stuck and that we're feeling. Once we can identify them, we're usually in a much better place to be able to not be run by them and not have our behaviors act within those. So if these are some skills that you want to work on, if you are looking for a place where you can talk more about these, practice them, do some of the worksheets, what am I trying to say? The sort of workshopping and the work pages, go to my free mental load basics community. Week 1 and week 2 mostly is where you will see some of these exercises where you can be putting it into the community, doing some of this work and getting knowledgeable. It will take emotional labor for you to do that. One, because I know that the free community is definitely not used nearly enough. If you're looking for a really kind, loving, vulnerable space of men that are doing this work consistently, go into Mental Load Mastery. The link is down below. You can register you can do a 7-day free trial. If you jump in the 7-day free trial, you also get an onboarding call within those first 7 days. If you jump into that onboarding call, answer any and all your questions before you actually get charged. So I think a lot of people are going to benefit from those first 7 days, just seeing if that's going to work for them, if it's a good resource. And I'm happy to answer any of those questions. It's 4 sessions throughout the week that you can show up to and get help from me and do some good work. And that's not even including some of the courses that I throw in here and there. Right now we have 5 going right now. So if you're looking for support in doing this, I would say for the men, mental load mastery. If you are, I don't work with too many women, but if this is the kind of work that you're also trying to do and you're a woman, there is Fair Play Mastery. You can, if you go over to the school platform and DM me about that on the school platform, I'm very quick to respond to those DMs in school. So I highly encourage any and everybody join Mental Load Basics. That is the place where a lot of work is being done for free, and I think it's a great community for people to do more of the work. All right. Thank you. I'm hoping you got something out of this. If this was really valuable for you and this was good language, share it with somebody. If you have not already subscribed, please encourage you to subscribe. It helps me know that I'm doing good work and people are benefiting from it. And I hate to be that YouTuber guy, but if this spoke to you, if you want more of this, look forward to seeing more. Ask questions. What videos do you want to come next?